Hello everybody and welcome back to Just Draw Something. Today we will be focusing on inking. We will do two types of inking, my own personal style and then a style that I am not familiar with. For the second style, we will be using a custom brush made by somebody else, and I will leave that link in the description. I believe I have developed a very efficient and quick way of inking, and I will do it a little bit slower and also explain the steps I use to ink pretty quickly and efficiently. I am using my iPad Pro, although that is not necessary. That's what I will be drawing on. I will be using Procreate, so let's go ahead and get started. Just remember, it's not necessary to use iPad. You can use whatever you want. All right, for this video, I just made my own character really quick so that way I could start inking her. Now, it is not necessary to create a whole new character to practice inking. However, I just wanted to create something really quick so that way you guys can get familiarized with how to place basic facial features. So a quick note that I would like to say while I'm drawing the hair is that I see a lot of people, they'll just draw on the form of the circle, which is the skull. Make sure you're drawing hair at least an inch off of the circle. All right. All right, guys, so I'm done with the picture and it is time for me to start my inking process. Inking is very important because it defines your drawing. Now, a lot of artists have many different types. I like using the ink bleed pen. I think that's the ink bleed pen on Procreate. And I change the opacity down below 50%. It gives me this sort of soft, contrasty look, sort of whimsical. I am a big fan of the ink bleed pen while I am inking. When I am doing the eyes, I tend to make the pen a little bit bigger because there's a lot more to fill and you want the drama in the eyes. I end up building up the lines, so because the opacity is so low, I have to go over the same line maybe a few times if I really want the contrast to be there. I encourage everybody to lower their opacity when they ink in this style because building up gives a nicer finished look. So when I move on to other features, I will usually put the pen nib down. I will make it a little bit smaller, so that way it doesn't take away from other features that I would like showcased, like the eyes or the hair. One thing I have learned in my journey through several different artists is when inking, I like to take the lines that will have a shadow and deepen them or thicken the line. This will create dimension and drama in your inking. As you can tell, undo is your best friend. I will sometimes have a line pass like 2 to 3 times, maybe even more. Sometimes it could be 10. However, try to approach your inking lines really confidently and swiftly. If you need help in Procreate, I'm not sure about other ones, there is a option under your brushes that says streamline. If you pull that up to about 20-30%, your lines will become notably smoother. So as you can see, I am using the same pen width for the hair. Now, I only do this for the outline and I only do this for the hair that creates the biggest mold. So inside the hair, I will actually take the pen size and just make it a lot smaller. And then I'll fill in the details with very small, fine lines. As you guys just saw, when inking, it is okay to cross-section your lines. So I would say if you got a good line and it so happens you crossed with another line, just keep the line and then erase the tips where you made the crosshairs. Now what I'm doing is what I just talked about. I am using a smaller brush and lighter pressure to sort of fill in the details, giving a lot of detail to the actual hair. I also like thickening where the lines intersect. So as you can see on the top of the hair, I thicken those lines, but where they actually meet to form like a indent or a corner, I thicken those even thicker so that way it gives a lot of drama to the line. All right, going back to where I said I like keeping my line opacity down to 40% for my own personal style, around like 40 to 50. You can play with it, you know, depending on your preference, but I really love the line buildup this gives me on the ink bleed brush. As you can tell from constantly building up the lines, you can start seeing this drawing just pop. It's looking very dynamic. The lines are looking very smooth and buttery. It all depends on your taste and style. Make sure those lines are always confident and that you really use that undo tool. All I'm doing here is adding really small lines to define the hair. I will eventually go over some of the lines to just thicken them and deepen their color so that way those lines really pop out and separate these hair strands. All right, you guys keep on just building up those lines where you feel needs more definition. If you notice that a portion of your drawing is kind of just flat, it usually means that it needs more defined line art. Remember, the line art is a very important step, especially if you are drawing anime. It really defines and makes the picture just better altogether. All right, guys, just making a few adjustments that I see that I don't like. I am going to add a little more detail on here before I move on to the more solid inking. All right, guys, my inking style is done, which I will go ahead and show a completed picture after so that way we can kind of compare styles. I will be moving now into unfamiliar territory. I will be using my completed ink work to trace over for this solid ink style. Alright guys, so now I will be inking with a brush called G Pen. I will leave a link down in the description to where you can download this brush. Now, I am very uncomfortable and not familiar with this style of inking. I don't know if that's apparent, if you can tell. However, I do not usually ink with such bold lines. I usually find that these are in comic books, this kind of inking. However, I have seen other YouTubers use this same G Pen to produce some amazing works in anime. I will say that this pen is very unforgiving and I am having a very hard time using it. However, just keep those lines confident, use the erase tool to your advantage, so that way you can get those bold lines. All right, guys, there is a lot of things you can do in Procreate. I am using the snap line feature, which makes your curved lines really smooth. I will end up making a video on all of these little tips and tricks that I use in every picture that I draw in another video. All right, as you guys can see, I am outlining her with really thick ink. I will end up going in the outline using a lot smaller lines to sort of fill in those details. However, it's important to make sure that the silhouette of the character really stands out. So as I'm working into these details, I am noticing that there is no buildup in these lines. These lines are just solid mass, and I am having a hard time because they are not forgiving at all. This is much different than my regular inking method. This is the first time I am inking like this. I never ink this harsh. But I find this very, very troubling. Even the details I notice I just don't feel like they're as detailed as my normal inking process. Hopefully you guys like this inking process, and maybe some of you will like it better than my own personalized inking process. However, I thought I'd just show a different type of inking and try something new that I've never really done, just to see how much different it actually is. Well, here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and start inking the hair and adding a lot more detail to it. So if you guys are drawing with me and you guys are on the inside details of the outline, make sure you lower the size of your pen tool, because you want all those details to have finer lines, so that way there's a lot of contrast between the lines, there's more dynamics between the line weight. Just make sure you lower the pen size. So all I'm doing right now is thickening some lines, and just where the lines connect, I am trying to erase other lines to kind of make it smoother, trying to define other lines, especially her face, because her face, there should be a lot of attention drawn to it. So when I usually ink, I tend to make a point to outline the face with thicker line weight, just so that way there is more focus drawn into the face. All right, guys, and that is it. 2 different inking methods. Hopefully you guys liked one of them, or even like both of them. All right, guys. Well, that's the end of the video. Hopefully you guys learned something new today. Inking is tedious, but it is necessary. Just keep practicing and you will definitely get the hang of it. As always, feel free to leave feedback and critique in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to drop a comment of something you'd like to be drawn, and I will use that in an upcoming video. I will take the suggested comment and I will draw what it says, and then I will teach you guys the process I use to learn how to draw that picture. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Have a great day, guys.